Look, King Charles just stood in front of the United States Congress and dismantled Donald Trump without ever saying his name. Not once. He didn't have to. Every single person in that chamber knew exactly who he was talking about. Every line, every reference, every carefully placed word was aimed directly at this president and this administration. And the best part? Trump had to sit at the White House and watch it happen. He told reporters earlier in the day he wanted to attend, but was told it would go against protocol. So he watched from the residence while the King of England walked into his Congress and delivered a masterclass in diplomatic demolition. We're going to get into all of this, but first hit subscribe if you haven't. Leave a like. It genuinely helps. So Charles opens by telling Congress that America's words carry weight and meaning. Simple statement, right? Except when you say it to a room full of lawmakers who have watched this president lie about the war, lie about negotiations with Iran, lie about the economy, lie about Epstein, lie about everything. Those words land differently. You could hear it in the chamber. There were audible reactions on the Democratic side. Then he pivots to the Magna Carta, talks about how it's been cited in at least 160 Supreme Court cases since 1789, specifically as the foundation of the principle that executive power is subject to checks and balances. And then he calls for the defense of Ukraine. In front of the man's own Congress, while Trump sits at the White House cozying up to Putin and inviting him to the G20 at a Trump property. Take a look at this.
And those roots go even further back in history. The US Supreme Court Historical Society has calculated that Magna Carta is cited in at least 160 Supreme Court cases since 1789, not least as the foundation of the principle that executive power is subject to checks and balances. In the immediate aftermath of 9/11, when NATO invoked Article 5 for the first time, and the United Nations Security Council was united in the face of terror, we answered the call together, as our people have done so for more than a century, shoulder to shoulder, through 2 world wars, the Cold War, Afghanistan, and moments that have defined our shared security. Today, Mr. Speaker, that same unyielding resolve is needed for the defense of Ukraine and her most courageous people. It is needed in order to secure a truly just and lasting peace. The story of the United Kingdom and the United States is at its heart a story of reconciliation, renewal, and remarkable partnership. From the bitter divisions of 250 years ago, we forged a friendship that has grown into one of the most consequential alliances in human history. I pray with all my heart that our alliance will continue to defend our shared values with our partners in Europe and the Commonwealth and across the world. And that we ignore the clarion calls to become ever more inward-looking. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Vice President, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, America's words carry weight and meaning, as they have since independence. The actions of this great nation matter even more. President Lincoln understood this so well with his reflection in the magisterial Gettysburg Address, that the world may little note what we say, but will never forget what we do. And so to the United States of America, on your 250th birthday, let our 2 countries rededicate ourselves to each other in the selfless service of our peoples and of all the peoples of the world.
When a foreign head of state walks into Congress and starts citing the legal foundations for constraining executive power, that is not a history lesson. That is a message. He's telling the room and the country and the world that what is happening in the United States right now is a departure from the principles this country was built on. He didn't say, Donald Trump is acting like a king. He didn't have to. He referenced the 800-year-old document that was literally created to stop kings from ruling without accountability, and then told Congress that this principle is foundational to American governance. The subtlety is the point. Charles can't be overtly political. He's constitutionally bound to stay above it. And while Charles was delivering the speech, while he was standing in Congress talking about how America's words carry weight, Trump was on Truth Social proving exactly the opposite. He posted this: "The Chancellor of Germany, Friedrich Merz, thinks it's okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon. He doesn't know what he's talking about. If Iran had a nuclear weapon, the whole world would be held hostage. I am doing something with Iran right now that other nations or presidents should have done long ago. No wonder Germany is doing so poorly, both economically and otherwise. President Donald J. Trump." Charles is literally in the Capitol building telling Congress that when the United States speaks, the world listens, and the gravity of that should never be taken for granted. And at that exact moment, Trump is on social media attacking one of America's closest allies with lies. Because here's the thing, Merz never said it's okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon. What he actually said was that the United States is being humiliated by Iran's negotiators. He said Trump has no strategic exit plan. He said Iran is skillfully refusing to negotiate while Trump keeps claiming negotiations are happening. That's not endorsing a nuclear Iran. That's pointing out that Trump is getting played. And instead of responding to the substance of the criticism, Trump lashes out at the messenger and claims Germany is doing poorly. Germany, the largest economy in Europe. Trump's own intelligence director, Tulsi Gabbard, told Congress last year that Iran isn't building a nuclear weapon. But sure, Merz is the one who doesn't know what he's talking about. Now there's more to this speech. Take a look at this.
In both of our countries, it is the very fact of our vibrant, diverse, and free societies that gives us our collective strength, including to support victims of some of the ills that so tragically exist in both our societies today. And, Mr. Speaker, for many here, and for myself, the Christian faith is a firm anchor and daily inspiration that guides us, not only personally, that guides us not only personally, but together as members of our community. Having devoted a large part of my life to interfaith relationships and greater understanding, it is that faith in the triumph of light over darkness which I have found confirmed countless times. Through it, I am inspired by the profound respect that develops as people of different faiths grow in their understanding of each other. People in rural communities and cities alike have all helped to protect and nurture what President Theodore Roosevelt called the glorious heritage of this land's extraordinary natural splendor, on which so much of its prosperity has always depended. Yet, even as we celebrate the beauty that surrounds us, our generation must decide how to address the collapse of critical natural systems, which threatens far more than the harmony and essential diversity of nature. We ignore at our peril the fact that these natural systems, in other words, nature's own economy, provide the foundation for our prosperity and our national security.
Charles talking about the Christian faith as a firm anchor and daily inspiration that should guide communities toward understanding and respect for people of all faiths. Remember Trump posted AI-generated images of himself as Jesus? The same month he attacked the Pope, the same administration that uses Christianity as a branding exercise while doing the exact opposite of what the faith teaches. Charles didn't say any of that. He just described what faith is supposed to look like and let the contrast do the work. I think what happened today is going to be studied for a long time. This was a sitting British monarch standing in the United States Capitol and systematically challenging the President of the United States on executive overreach, on abandoning allies, on Ukraine, on faith, and he did it so carefully that Trump can't even really attack him for it. What's he going to do? Start a fight with the British monarchy during a state visit? He can't. So instead, he sits at the White House rage posting about Germany while the king is getting standing ovations from his own Congress. And that's the part that has to eat at Trump more than anything. Charles got a warm, bipartisan reception. Members of Congress were shaking his hand, applauding, giving him the kind of respect that Trump has never gotten from that chamber and never will. Because Trump has never walked into a room and inspired respect through the substance of what he's saying. He demands loyalty, he threatens, he retaliates. Charles walked in with a 20-minute speech, never raised his voice, never named a single person, and left the building having said more about the state of American democracy than Trump has in his entire presidency. The King of England came to Congress to remind Americans about the importance of checks on executive power. The man whose ancestors the Magna Carta was written to constrain showed up to lecture this country about the principles it was founded on. America's words carry weight. Charles was right about that. The problem is the man in the White House doesn't understand what that means. And every time he opens his mouth or posts on Truth Social, that weight gets a little lighter. We're going to keep calling this out. If you're still here, do me a favor, hit subscribe, leave a like, and I'll see you on the next one.